That raises the question whether this DARPA research money, your tax dollars, Defense Department resources, access to internet traffic they otherwise would not have been able to obtain without Defense Department authorization, was used and diverted to the use for the Clinton campaign to try to destroy Trump. Judicial Watch, long before Durham was appointed, we were investigating all these issues. And I can go through everything that we have uncovered that suggested criminality and misconduct and abuse by Obama and, frankly, elements of the Trump administration, deep state, including his own appointees that had it in for Trump and were engaged in a coup-like activity. I call it the coup cabal. Hillary Clinton was part of that coup cabal. And we don't stop. We don't stop investigating just because Durham's investigating. We always think it's important to have independent information out there for the American people to draw their own conclusions. And the information we get isn't so we can't legally prosecute anyone. But the more information that's out there, the better, the more likely there is going to be accountability, and it makes it harder, although not impossible, we've seen, for the Justice Department to sit back and do nothing, or for Durham to sit back and do nothing. And we had a Freedom of Information Act request. It was a Georgia state version of the Freedom of Information Act law. It's called the Open Records Act, the Georgia Open Records Act. Now, you saw in the discussion the material I quoted from that there were these other internet researchers that Joffe was using to help collate and create, gain information into Trump's internet activities. And based on public reports in the New York Times and elsewhere, they were affiliated with Georgia State University. So what did Judicial Watch do? Well, we asked for the records about their activities from Georgia State University. And we got some very interesting information. And the information is, because you may recall in the document here, let me look at this document again, that these cybersecurity researchers, let me quote exactly from the materials here. The assistance of researchers at a U.S.-based university who were receiving and analyzing large amounts of internet data in connection with a pending federal cybersecurity research grant. Well, lo and behold, we got documents that suggest that that grant, or that federal cybersecurity research grant, was from DARPA. And what is DARPA? DARPA is the Defense Advanced Research Projects Agency. It's a major component of the Pentagon, in the sense it's one of these forward-thinking think tanks within the Pentagon that come up with and consider different approaches and newfangled approaches to defense and national security problems. And I think one of the issues they were working on with these researchers are, vacuum up internet data and see what you can draw from it in terms of a threat analysis. So I think that's what was going on there, but I don't have access to the contract, so I'm kind of reading between the tea leaves there. And the contract lasted for 5 years. So that raises the question whether this DARPA research money, your tax dollars, Defense Department resources, access to internet traffic they otherwise would not have been able to obtain without Defense Department authorization, was used and diverted to the use for the Clinton campaign to try to destroy Trump. A, keep him from winning the election, and then B, later, trying to destroy him through this coup activity as I've been talking about. And we got the document showing it was DARPA. I mean, what agencies were not involved, either directly, indirectly, knowingly, or unknowingly, in the targeting of Trump? More information that the Defense Department's resources may have been used to try to overthrow the President of the United States. And one of the defenses of this crew is they say that, oh, we're just neutral observers and cybersecurity experts and nonpartisan, and this wasn't about politics. Well, these are what the emails say. I mean, they're writing to Joffe or his people talking about how they've got the DARPA grant. Well, isn't that interesting? And as I say, no, they're not neutral. In an email, one of the cybersecurity experts writes, the Russians are killing spies with knowledge of the dossier materials. And then there's a link to some crazy story about it. Oh, and Trump purged the National Security Council, removing General Dunford and put Steve Bannon, he could quote PR guy, on the NSC. My guess, the purged NSC will now say that Russia has given us great intel on ISIS and that we should lift sanctions now that Russia is helping. The public will have no way to judge this. All this to protect Trump from the dossier materials. This sounds like something straight out of the Clinton campaign. It's like reading Rachel Maddow or something. What the bleep is going on? Can you please explain why the GOP is not doing something? And then someone writes a few minutes later, some in the GOP knows what's up, Graham and McCain, but most are all too happy to have their narrow, specific agendas advanced, e.g. removing Social Security, ACA Obamacare repeal, more tax cuts for companies, etc. They put party ahead of country, in short. Now that the Russians are killing people with knowledge of the dossier, we can hope for a defector who gets to a non-U.S. embassy in Moscow. I mean, this is crank stuff. And obviously anti-Trump. These were government contractors again. And they were also very interested in going after Steve Bannon, it looks like. An email from Joffe to the cybersecurity researchers in Georgia says, the subject line is to be added, Joffe writes. They think he may have some baggage. And they're referencing Bannon. So was Bannon also spied upon by the Clinton spy ring? I don't know. What this raises the tantalizing possibility that it was that Bannon was also targeted. But don't you think this is a big deal? I do. I'm glad Judicial Watch is doing the basic investigation that the media refuses to do. Much of the big media, all of our major institutional media, except for the notable exception of Fox, I mean, the exceptions prove the rule, don't they? Are spending their time trying to protect Hillary Clinton and trying to minimize the Durham filing that quite specifically ties Hillary Clinton to spying on the executive office of the president, at least through her campaign's lawyers, who had these cybersecurity experts mine data it looks like they weren't allowed to mine. Will there be more Hillary Clinton operatives prosecuted? Will she be questioned directly on this? Has she already been questioned directly on this? I don't know. I don't know.
Thanks for tuning in. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel to catch all the latest news from Judicial Watch.